Hello, and welcome to the Texas Transfer Grant Pilot Program webcast. Today is Wednesday, January 25th, 2023. My name is Troy Lane Johnson. I am the Program Manager for the Transfer Grant. We also have Deshae Reed, our Senior Director of Financial Aid Services here, who will be fielding questions throughout this broadcast. Also, this broadcast is being recorded. So we will go ahead and get started. Today, our topics of discussion is program reminders. We'll talk about the process of requesting reimbursement and returning of funds. We'll go over some additional resources, and then we should also have time at the end for additional questions. We'll start out with some program reminders. Administration. When you are awarding a student, keep in mind that the student must be listed on your institution's recipient roster. Even if that student comes to you and gives you a copy of their offer letter, their award notification they received via email, the student can be enrolled in a minimum of 9 semester credit hours for the spring. The student may have already submitted their 22-23 FAFSA. If they've done all of those things, but they are not listed on your institution's recipient roster, they cannot be awarded. Reason being, we will not and cannot reimburse you for a student that you've paid out and that student is not listed on your recipient roster. If that occurs, notify us immediately so that we can do some additional research to determine why the student is not listed on your recipient roster. Second, the amount of this grant must not be reduced unless the total amount of the transfer grant plus other aid exceeds the student's cost of attendance. That is the only reason you should reduce this transfer grant. Otherwise, the student should receive $5,000 for the spring. We've received the question, well, what if the student received $5,000 in the fall? Or what if the student received a transfer grant in the fall? It's fine because this is a very unique program. These students were randomly selected. They were randomly selected in the fall. They are randomly selected in the spring. So a student who was selected for a transfer grant award in the fall could have very well been randomly selected in the spring. What this means is a student could have been selected to receive a total award amount of $10,000 for the academic year. And we also ask that you reduce loans and work study prior to reducing the transfer grant in the case that you have to start reducing any of those awards. A student who meets enrollment eligibility is a student who is enrolled in at least 9 semester credit hours as of the institution's census date. Now, when we reimburse you, we will not reimburse you for a student who is enrolled in less than 9 hours as of your standard census date. If an over award occurs and you are determining the amount of that over award, if it does not exceed $300, then there would be no reason to adjust the transfer grant. So as long as it does not exceed $300, no adjustment is needed. Selective service criteria. The Texas Transfer Grant is subject to the selected service criteria based on the Texas Education Code Title III, Section 51.9095. Now we'll go ahead and discuss requesting reimbursement. There are approximately 4 steps to requesting um, a reimbursement for the transfer grant. We'll talk about each step independently. Step 1, the reimbursement template. We'll provide the hyperlink for you to access this reimbursement template for when you are completing the reimbursement form. And with this template, you'll insert every student data for every student you awarded and dispersed a transfer grant to for the spring of 2023. So to get started, what you'll do is you will insert your institution's name. You'll see in this beige field, we did provide a bit more description just for clarity in completing and filling this out. You'll input your institution's 6-digit FICE, and we did provide a couple of examples. And as you see in the description field, when you are completing these fields, if you have a FICE or a social security number, anything that begins with a 0, enter the apostrophe prior to entering the leading 0, and then you enter your FICE or whatever you're entering. So if you have, for instance, if your FICE begins with a 0, you'll enter apostrophe 02345 6 based on the example I have here. And then when you hit enter, it will be displayed as you see in the example. Just like with that social security number, if it begins with a 0, you'll enter apostrophe and then 023456789. It'll be displayed such as you see in that second example. Another thing to remember with the social security numbers is enter it as you see, no dashes. Enter the last name, first name of the student. When you're entering their date of birth, be sure to use the format as you see here, 4-digit year, 2-digit month, and the 2-digit day. So March 2nd, 1999 is going to be entered 1999-03-02. You'll enter your the student's hours. You'll enter the dispersed amount. And then the explanation field, you will only enter an explanation if you dispersed less than $5,000. So you'll see with that second example, we typed in COA exceeded due to excess amounts in other need-based aid. So the total dispersed amount is going to be auto-populated. So as you enter your students, as you're entering the dispersed amounts, it will auto-populate in that field up top. When you are done entering your information, your students' data, save this file as your 6-digit FICE, your institution's name, and the semester and year. So I saved my file as 012345 AB underscore ABC University underscore spring 2023. Step 2, the reimbursement request form. You will be provided the link to the spring 23 transfer grant reimbursement request form. Once you are ready to complete this form, make sure that you complete all the necessary fields. You'll first select the institution type. There are only two, so you'll select either a public university or a private independent institution. You will select your institution from the drop-down field. You'll see your FICE, your institution's name, and your allocation amount that was given for the spring. You will then enter your reimbursement request amount. So this is the amount that you're requesting. And you'll enter the student count that is reflected in the amount of your reimbursement request. Final request for submission box. This is a new feature we added to the request for submission of a transfer grant. And we added this box so that we could assess funding and where things lie as those submissions come in. Um, so if you believe that this is your final request for reimbursement, when or if you believe it's your one and only request, same thing, check this box so that as we're getting them, we can do an assessment of funding and see where we are. Um, if you check this box, and later on you realize that you have a couple of students that you did not get to add on this request, and you're like, oh no, I need to get these students. They got left off for whatever reason. Um, just notify us and we'll help you get that rectified. But otherwise, just be sure to check that box when it's your last or final request. Step 3, you will upload the reimbursement file. This is the file that contains the data for the recipients that you awarded and dispersed the transfer grant to. Step 4, you will be sure to click the box that's right above the submit button. And then what that's going to do is you're checking to indicate that you want to be sent a copy of your responses. You'll click submit, and right before you click submit, when you check that box, you'll be able to enter your email address. Then you'll click submit. So when you submit your information, everything you just entered will be sent to you or sent to your email address. All institutions are highly encouraged to submit their spring 2023 request for reimbursement of the transfer grant to the THECB by the target deadline of February 28th, 2023. Now, the contracted deadline of May 1st still lies in effect. However, meeting the target deadline would allow us to get a good look or get an assessment of spring funds and the usage of such. Um, so that's just a little tidbit as to why that target deadline was incorporated. So those who can, we just encourage you to meet that February 28th deadline. Now we'll go ahead and move to returning of program funds. Program forms, you would use the online return of funds forms for grants and special programs. We just ask you to be sure to complete all the required fields. You would enter your institution's FICE and institution name. Um, you would enter the contact information for the financial aid director, reporting official, and business office contact. If that person is one and the same, you still are required to complete all three sections. even if that means completing it and filling in the name, the same name, and email and phone number 3 times. Um, the award year, you would complete the program name and PCA number from you would select from the drop down. You would also be sure to complete the detailed refund explanation, and be sure if you're completing it for transfer grant, include the student's full name, SSN, and the date of birth. The student who's impacted by the refund. If it's more than one, be sure to list them all. Um, the name of the certifying official would need to be input the date. Um, and then in the special program section, you'd include the amount and the number of student awards being refunded. And that summary section in the bottom right here, this is auto-populated, and then you click your submit button. Now we'll discuss some of the additional resources that are available to you. Our websites include the Student Financial Aid Program's webpage. Any resources that are published for the Texas Transfer Grant Pilot Program are housed here. Uh, you will see anything from the instructions for finding the recipient roster or accessing that to these previously recorded webinars. Our FAQs are housed here. Um, Also, even access to the Texas Transfer Grant designated um, pilot or designated web page is here. So I also listed that um, hyperlink. So this hyperlink and webpage is given to any student that is sent an offer notification, an offer letter, or email. Um, and you are more than welcome to take a look at this webpage. It talks about the pilot program. It tells students about things that they need to do, action they need to take. It talks about the research study. It's a list of FAQs for students, and it lists participating institutions. Program resources that are published on the Student Financial Aid Program's webpage uh, range from fact sheets to requesting reimbursement and returning funds, roster retrieval instructions. The fact sheet that was published in the fall is still there because criteria has not changed for the grant. The only thing that may differ is the date that you have to submit that um, your request for reimbursement. For the fall, it was October 14th. But everything else remains the same. The purpose, the award amount, the information regarding over awards, eligibility for disbursement, um, information regarding how to access your rosters. That stuff is still the same. So that's why this information is still out there. But also any new resources that I'm getting ready to publish is going to also go in that same place on the web page. I just mentioned archived webcasts, such as this one, will be published on the Student Financial Aid Program webpage. Um, FAQs. Speaking of, we have some new ones that are coming very soon. We'll make that announcement as soon as they are posted and published. We were talking about some of the questions that we've been getting. I mentioned that some of the very popular ones were, hey, can a student receive the transfer grant in the spring if they got it in the fall? The answer is yes, they can, because with this unique program, students are randomly selected. They were randomly selected in the fall, and students in the spring were randomly selected. Um, yes, in the fall, we were saying, hey, this is a one-time thing, because we did not know that we would have a limited amount of funds remaining. And when we did find that out, we announced it to you all, but criteria did not change. Nothing about the criteria changed. So students were randomly selected again. So what that means is a student who was randomly selected in the fall could have been randomly selected again in the spring. So that student could be awarded $10,000 for the year. So so that's an FAQ that's being created, and we've created a couple of more that we hope will provide some clarity, some guidance. Um, so those, be on the lookout for those. Those are up and coming. Okay, let's talk about ways that you can contact us. All right, we can be reached in one or two ways. You can reach us through the institutional line, and that's for institutions only, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Our phones are closed from 12 to 1 daily for lunch, or you can submit an online inquiry through Contact Us at any time. When you are submitting a Contact Us, please completely fill it out so that we can ensure that it's routed correctly, because we are not the only department to use the Contact Us form within our agency. The received from field, be sure to select institution, complete insert your institution's name in the institution field, select financial aid question in the contact reason field. In the description box, type transfer grant program and then include a detailed explanation. Even though the phone number field does not contain a red asterisk symbolizing required field, please include your phone number as a best practice, because sometimes if we need some clarification, it might be easier to pick up the phone and ask you instead of going back and forth with emails. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have additional questions, we'll fill through those now. Otherwise, it has been my pleasure. Thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.